Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back. Dr. Jason Dean with bravetv. It is Mondays with Morley. Morley Robbins.
Greetings.
Are you behaving yourself this Monday afternoon?
What's that?
Are you behaving?
No, not even close. I just realized something.
What?
In your video, you pick up a book called 1787.
Okay.
1787. No, I guess that's not right. I was thinking it was inverse of 1871, but it's
it was just a book that happened to be on a shelf, and so that's the one we picked up because it seemed like a good video production. They make you do interesting things. I think it's interesting.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
How is it's been a crazy week for me. I don't know about you. What is your week?
Well, my weekend was insane getting the manuscript finished so it could get to the guest writer who's feverishly trying to meet a the official Halloween deadline, 31st.
How much time you put into this thing?
Not as much as people might think, but it's been in fits and starts. It's been intense.
Okay.
And guess when the book's going to be published? We have an October 31st, 2024 deadline. When's the book coming out?
January 2025. When?
November 2025. A year long.
Why?
That's my question. There's no good answer. Like they just have
Who's publishing?
Ben Bella Books, and they picked up books like the China Study, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Yeah.
Some other big titles like that. So you don't really have a chance to argue with that. It is what it is. I'm like, why do I have this deadline?
Year?
A year in advance. Like the world could change in a year.
I've had seminars say to me, "Hey, we need your PowerPoint 4 months ahead." I'm like, I'm not giving you a PowerPoint 4 months ahead. Well, why not? Because I could change things the night before. Like
I know. It's
like if I do a PowerPoint 4 months ahead, the information is becoming basically invalid at that point. Like
right.
not that it can't be used, but like you could write a whole other book by then.
The best and worst thing that ever happened to me was I discovered in college that you could have an incomplete. Oh, you mean I get a chance to do it over or extend the? Oh yeah, go ahead. God, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I have more time now. Great, I can do more things.
Yes,
well.
there has to be a middle ground of action and preparation.
Yeah, that's right.
But action needs to be taken because I know somebody who had a book. They wrote the book in a day.
Wow.
They took it to the publisher. The publisher said, "We can't print this. Like it's got misspellings. It's got this. It's got that." And he said, "Okay, I'll do it myself." Published it himself. Went to New York Times and Amazon bestseller list, #1.
Wow, sweet.
That's the next copper. But next copper book is going to be. We got to go #1. Morley.
Oh no, that's what they're shooting for. They want this to really just stand out, and they picked out 4 books that they said this is the genre, and I'm like, well, these people don't talk about minerals. They don't know what minerals are. But so we'll see. It's going to be an interesting process.
Can I give you a scenario that actually happened to me?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
So, I have been for 4 months dealing with nothing horrible, but annoying. I've had a right shoulder
Oh yeah, we
issue,
talked about that. Yeah.
and then I was having like pain in my T1 area ish,
Right.
up to the upper neck area, occiput, etc. And I decided that I was going to just go at it, right? So I started taking at least minimum 6 copper per day.
6 recuperate.
That was a minimum.
Oh wow. Okay.
6 copper. 6 copper.
Yeah.
I have been taking roughly 1,500. Don't get all panicky on me now.
No. I'm just
1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of
vitamin
a
C.
combination of magnesium glycinate as well as Easy Mag from Standard Process.
Okay.
On top of the 6 plus copper. And then I was taking about 1,500 B1 and 1,500 milligrams. And then
That's
like,
a lot of B1.
I have 500 milligrams of B vitamins, right? B complex.
Okay.
So I've been taking those for a month, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to a seminar this weekend, and I was feeling a little different. I felt the brain come back online. That was primary, right?
Yeah.
But then I went to a seminar this weekend, and I met a chiropractor who I'm going to have on the show someday in the near future, because what a brilliant chiropractor. And people are like, well, your wife's a chiropractor. I'm like, yeah, and I get adjusted by her, but sometimes you actually need someone outside your sphere to actually, like, I don't think people realize that. So I go to this convention. He's like, hey, I'm like, can you adjust me? He's like, yeah. So he uses AK, right? And he's checking on stuff, and he looks at me, he says, did you have any traumas, like, on the right side of your body? I said, I was T-boned twice. One was a little kid, and I was in a passenger seat. I was probably, 10-ish years old. And then the other one was probably, a decade ago in a truck when someone was speeding around the corner and hit me in a truck, not my truck, my father-in-law's. And he said, your whole right side right here is injury. And he goes, but it's pulling your occiput down, like it's like the muscles are yanking. So I'm like, okay, so he's playing around, and I always thought it was the atlas.
Right.
So what he does some really intense stretching on the scalenes. And what was happening, I was putting magnesium in, I was putting copper in, all the good stuff. He finally got the muscles to release, right? And then he did a occiput adjustment on me, Morley, from Saturday till today. Total calmness, muscles totally relaxed, zero pain whatsoever, brain is like totally on, etc. And I know there's rules, and I know there's recommendations and RDAs. I know you were the magnesium person well before the copper person, right? Like you were studying magnesium for a long time. It is my belief, based on just looking at my, and I eat really well, much better than most patients that come to me, right? I've been taking supplements for a long time. I truly believe people are radically, not just like deficient, I think they're radically deficient major minerals and major copper.
I wouldn't dispute that. I think,
and I say radically deficient. Like, I mean, like I even just told you some of the B1 I took, and you're like, that's a lot of B1. I think we're deficient at a radical level, to the point where I think the RDA is a joke, and some of these RDAs you could go 10x those RDAs. Not saying that as we're not giving that advice.
No, I understand. I mean, you have to put in the context of generational deficiency.
Sure.
You're probably the fourth or fifth generation of your family
Absolutely.
to be experiencing this, and people
And
don't.
coming from an addiction family, so they were alcohol
Okay,
addiction, drug addiction, etc.
yeah. So we're we're brothers from another mother. So no, same concepts, but I think people think about here and now. They don't think about what was going on 120 years ago, or
Correct.
90 years ago, or 75 years ago, and that I think that gets stored in the tissue. Um, I bet it gets stored in the DNA somehow.
I
The
wouldn't doubt it.
trauma, yeah. And no, that's an amazing recovery. That's phenomenal. What's going to be interesting is to see what level of nutritional support do you think you're going to need going forward with this significant adjustment that's taken place.
And I want people to know I'm not going to recommend to you a dosage that I do. However, because you can go by the bottle, because we have to be careful, unfortunately, in this world. However, I have been personally taking minimum 6 of the Recuperate copper, and my body's absorbing it and loving it, just so everyone knows. I'm not telling you to take 6. I'm just saying that's what I've done.
So let's stay with that. My body is loving it. What would you use as descriptors to say it's loving it?
I can feel the difference. My brain. I mean, I use my brain a lot, right? I'm constantly studying, right?
Yeah, I get that point.
Morley, I my energy levels went higher. My brain
Yeah.
didn't turn off before. It doesn't turn off now, but I feel like I have the fuel to run the brain, and I didn't know I didn't until I did it. Like, does that make sense? Like, I was
No,
already
it doesn't.
going, but then all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, there's more clarity there. Oh my, like I can actually think through stuff. Ideas came in faster, but also the other thing with this too is I went literally 0 carbs, right?
Okay,
I,
that's
I,
good.
I intuitively, this is going to be a me thing. You'll understand this, but not everyone will. Intuitively, I can feel my physiology working differently.
Yeah, right.
I'm
I can
going for
accept.
I'm going for reversal of the gray. I'm going to go for a reversal of the gray hair. That's what I'm going for.
There we
Do
go.
you think I have a
We learn-
chance?
Oh yeah, totally. You need B5. It's going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
Spermidine, something like. I think it's spermine. That will be very helpful. And there's an amino acid. I'll look it up in my notes. But 4 things should reverse that.
4 things. That's it. I'm going to go back to having more hair,
Yep.
and it's going to be brown again, but I'm still going to keep it short because that's what I like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We saw a guy today. He had a white beard, but he was bald. Now I'm sure he had some kind of male pattern baldness, and he just
Yeah.
shaved his head. But I was trying to think, why does the hair on the face continue to grow when the hair on the scalp
It,
stops growing? I don't
isn't
get.
isn't hair for men, gray hair and hair for men, isn't that like the multi-billion-dollar answer that all, like women and men? I get asked that every once in a while. Hey, can you grow my hair back? I'm like, dude, if I could do that, like, I wouldn't
I think
be
the
in
two
this
hardest
practice. I
things
wouldn't be.
are.
I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
No, that's right. I think the two hardest things to reverse are hair loss and weight gain.
Absolutely. It's you
Very tricky
texted
to.
me. You texted me regarding the Casey and Callie Mean situation, right? And I want to preface this with, I don't know if I told you this before. Driving to Charlotte
Yep.
2 weekends ago or whatever it was,
Yeah. Right.
my in-laws were riding with me while my wife rode with my daughter, and they're in their mid to late 70s, both of them. Smart
Okay.
people. One was a nurse, one was a hospital administrator, similar.
Yep.
And they are not podcast people. They're conservative people. They have some liberal values, but mostly conservative people.
Right.
And they know about healthcare. They know about nutrition. They take tons of supplements. They eat really good, etc. I turned on the Tucker Carlson Casey Kelly means right now. I had not listened to it either, but I didn't do it for me. I did it for them just because I was curious too.
Yeah.
And they were listening and they finished. My mother-in-law, who's a registered nurse, I loved it. She just said, and she, through the whole thing, she was going, oh my gosh. And she knows some of the stats, but it was still like, boom.
Right.
My father-in-law, Morley, here's the trick. Here's what you and I got to figure out. My father-in-law, educated man, his first degree was in chemistry. He said, do you know what was important about that? I said, what? He goes, the stats were phenomenal. What their solutions were phenomenal. The importance of that was she has the most credentials you pretty much can have, and she's from Stanford University, and she's been in the mix. She knows what the bad looks like. She knows what the good looks like, and she has the credentials from and he was, I think, Harvard. And he said that alone is why people are listening now, is because as much as he doesn't, obviously his two daughters are both natural healthcare doctors, and he believes in it too. He said, but the problem is the public is not going to hear them because they sound crazy to start with. They're going to hear the person from Stanford University, the person from Harvard, the one who is in the medical system. He goes, so those people are important, not because they're going to like win the war necessarily, but that's what people are looking for right now. Before you can turn, like when the masses turn, you can push them into natural healthcare. But to get them to turn, you need people who are almost degreed and credentialed from major universities to be exposing. Does that make sense?
No, it does. No, it makes a lot of sense. I just what my issue is, and I'm not defending Big Pharma.
No, I know. I just wanted to preface that because I know we wanted to talk about, we're still missing the big secret, right?
Right. The big reveal, and they're putting the spotlight, rightfully so. That there's a lot of stuff in the world of Big Pharma that is complicated and has effects, but that's not where the problem is.
Yeah,
that's not where the primary problem is. I don't think people realize that the food they're eating is Swiss cheese.
Sure.
There's big holes in it, and it tastes great. We went last night to a restaurant, and they had potato soup. So Liz ordered a cup of potato soup. She loves potato soup. And this bowl came out, and it was basically Kraft cheese that had been melted with a potato that had been cut in quarters. I said, no, that's not potato soup.
That's cheese on a cut up potato.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. But the average person doesn't know that. They don't know what goes into making real food. It's supposed to, first you start with cream, heavy cream. That's where you start potato soup, is with heavy cream.
Yes.
But I think that's where the breakdown is I don't think people really know what real food is. And they don't know that the farming system is producing food-like substances, not real food. And just people have been conditioned that, oh, it's okay, I can get by with this. I'm like,
should be fine.
And that, yeah, it'll work out.
It'll work out.
I'll make up for it later. So it's just, and I think what's really in play right now is there's so much chaos in the macro world right now.
Yes.
Put aside the election. Who cares about the election? It's like just all the global unrest that is clearly taking place. It's like at some point that's going to get resolved. It's going to shake out, and who knows which way it's going to go. But I think people are on pins and needles waiting for, and it might take months. I don't think it's going to take years, but it's going to take months to resolve it. And it's just like, until then, I think people think, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Who knows what's going to happen? And I think it's a very unprecedented time. That I I don't remember anything like this in my lifetime that's anywhere close to this level of uncertainty. And
You don't like the
anyway,
uncertainties? You're not enjoying it?
well, let's just say that there are too many variables. I think there are too many variables, and I don't think we're watching a movie. I thought that for a while. I don't think we're watching a movie anymore. I don't know who's running the script, but it's pretty wild. I think. And so what that does is it just amps up your stress level, and then that just affects your physiology. You can't you
Of
can't
course.
if you can't calm down, if you can't digest your food, if you can't get sleep, well, then it really begins to pay a very heavy toll on the body. And you deal with it all day long with your clients, I'm sure. Um, but I would say that people are really amped up right now,
Oh
really
yeah.
amped up.
Oh yeah. No, I mean you're probably hearing it too, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Even if you're
So
not,
like,
even if you're not even into the politics of it, because I mean, I tell people they're like,
no,
"Ah, I'm not into this." I'm like, you still live in society. You still have a tax bill to pay. You still have. I mean, you're not. You don't get
right,
out of this.
no. And so a canvas worker came to the door the other day, and she wanted to know who I was voting for. I said, I haven't decided. She couldn't believe that. Well, what about the governor? I said, I didn't know there was a governor. You know, just a yank or chain. But it's like there's just so much flux right now, and who knows how the chips are going to fall. But but I think that just it adds to the angst, which adds to the burn rate. So you're just burning through minerals, big time, and you got to be really careful about what you eat. And the tendency is when it gets too stressful, you're going to go carb. Most people don't go no carb; they go
I know. I know.
they go
I'm
carb.
a rarity.
Yeah, no, you are. You're very unique in that way, and that's when people really get into trouble. They start amping up their sugars, which really messes up their
But
iron.
I'll tell you, adding the copper, adding the magnesium, adding the B1,
I believe it.
my carb cravings like just disappeared basically. Like I'm not even my hunger disappeared.
Yeah. I've known, and it hasn't stayed with me, but there's a relationship between sugar and dopamine, and I've forgotten what it is. And so when you can't make dopamine, you go sugar to feed that fix. And I think that's what happens, especially under intense stress.
What's the
It just,
dopamine and copper relationship? Is there any?
well, yeah, dopamine gets turned into noradrenaline by a copper enzyme. There's some, depending upon what pathway you're talking about, um, tyrosinase can make dopamine. So
Okay.
if you've got copper, you're going to be able to calm yourself down naturally. And the illusion is that sugar is going to calm you down. No, it doesn't. It does just the opposite, and it amps you up and really messes up your iron metabolism. And people don't like to hear that, especially if you say stop eating fruit. Then they go
Oh,
crazy.
Morley,
They
if you
they
tell
go
them,
crazy.
here's a I have a project for you if you ever want to.
Yeah, when I'm
I've
done
done
with
this
my
a few times, and every single time the hate that comes out is unbelievable. Which is this is what it is. Go tell people that all sugar is bad, and the fruit is junk,
yeah.
and it's just as bad. And
No,
you will get people
oh,
that are
I've got
typically
that.
super nice to you. Oh, Morley, love you. You're so wonderful. They will turn on a dime
It's like poltergeist. Yeah,
and throw
it's what it
you
is.
off the highest cliff in the world.
Yeah. No, I've
How dare you tell them that what they're eating, they're healthy, Morley. They don't have any problems because of that fruit and that plant-based diet.
even though the fruit they're eating is coming from Paraguay or some Land's End or where, it's like they don't even think
Paraguay.
about that. They don't think about how unnatural that fruit is in their locale. Like right now, the only real fruit that I think you can grow in this in North Carolina would be apples. And I don't think pumpkin does not qualify as a fruit, but that's it, apples. You walk into a fruit store right now, and there are like 25 different fruits. That's not natural.
Now, do you think it was natural for us to go into a fruit or an apple tree orchard and get hundreds of apples and eat those for the season? Or was it more natural to be foraging, running along, you see an orchard, you grab a couple and you keep moving?
Well, first of all, how many orchards do you think there were 1,000 years ago? I mean,
Good
really.
question. Not orchards. You would
There would be fruit trees.
fruit trees. I don't know there'd be orchards all over the place.
Yeah,
That's a human
but this idea
construct,
of-
probably.
That's a human concept. That's a modern human concept. And so, no, I don't think that's at all natural. And, our recent ancestors, they would can their fruits and things like that. I get that. But it's like this idea of walking into an orchard, that's not real. That's a contrived process. And I understand why people do it. They make their living. I had a friend whose father sold grapes to Welch's grape juice. I mean, that was their family income.
Sure.
And so it's like, I get that.
It's kind of the
But it's-
beginning of industrialization is what an orchard is, what you're saying. It's like the beginning of like, hey, let's do this on a mass level to take care of our community or our tribes.
I'm sure you've been to California to see their, I mean, talk about orchards. Oh my God. Fruit and nuts are just going down the valley. It's unbelievable. Well, again, is that natural? It's a modern process now.
It's a good point.
Yeah, but it's like, when the Native Americans were there, did they have orchards? I don't think so. I don't know.
How much copper is left in these orchards?
Boy, wouldn't you love to know, right? Or what was it? What was it 1,000 years ago? 2,000 years ago? The thing is that copper is a metal that can be 100% recycled. That's unique. Most metals, you just lose it as you begin to recycle. Copper, it can potentially be 100% recycled, which is amazing to think about. But it's where is it in the soil? I don't know. I don't know. But it's very exciting that you've had that kind of response. And how do your clients respond when you share that story with them?
With mine currently, I have not fully shared it yet because I'm just now getting the results of it. However, I am going to be playing with some people's programs and adding in some area and conservatively adding in some areas. I'm not going to blast everybody because it's not how it really works. But I even told my wife, I said, you go to seminars all over the place and everyone talks about, taking this product over here, taking this company over here, that company over there. I go, and you see results, but what I also see is I see some people who work with random practitioners, nobody specific, because I see it everywhere. They'll work with a practitioner and they'll feel good, let's say 6 months in. They feel good.
Right.
However, there might still be a weight issue. Or, they don't have 10 different symptoms anymore, but maybe they have 3, right? And obviously that's improvement. But I go back to, yes, we want whole food. Yes, we want whole herbal, etc. That's how I work. But what if you have radical deficiencies that are not being seen? So yes, you're making a change, and they're seeing an improvement. But at the end of the day, Morley, metabolic dysfunction, right? Somebody's Somebody's 100 pounds overweight.
Mm-hmm.
You cut 25 off and everyone's happy. You still got 75 there. Why is the 75 still on? But why are they overweight to begin with, Morley?
Right.
Those are radical deficiencies.
Absolutely. And the signaling is off. The burning of the fuel is off.
Right.
The ability to recycle within the body is off. And that, it's when you lose weight, you know where the weight comes out? It comes out of your breath. It's the breath that is releasing it's like, it's mind blowing to think about that. So when we burn fat, it's going to come out as exhaust. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. It is interesting.
Yeah.
What is your research? What have you been researching in the last week or so that has blown your lid off?
Well, I'm really stuck on this endothelial dysfunction thing.
Can you define endothelial first?
So there's a layer of cells. I don't know how many miles of.
Oh
of
God,
blood
it's
vessels.
insane. How many miles?
Thousands of miles, whatever it is. So inside all of those blood vessels are cells. I really think the endothelial cell. It's inside the. If this is the artery, there's a layer of cells that line the inside of the vessel, and I think they're the brains of the body. One of the really critical brains. We talk about the brain here and the gut brain and
Right.
brain of the heart. That endothelial layer is really important because it's monitoring what's in the blood and what's needed in the tissue. It's touching both sides. It's touching the tissue and it's keeping track of what's in the blood. And what maybe many people don't know about is that really what's behind a lot of chronic disease is what's called endothelial dysfunction. So the endothelial layer, that inside layer of a blood vessel, begins to break down. It begins to get rusty. And I've always wondered other than, we don't have enough copper, we need that too much iron. I get, But I've been, of late, and I don't know where this came from, but now I'm kind of stuck on it. I'm really trying to piece apart what actually is happening. And it's absolutely fascinating. The elegance of the design of our body is unbelievable.
Oh, I agree.
It's just the layers and layers and layers and layers of players and the signaling and the relays. And it's just like, it's amazing. And what I've come across in the last few days is, it's always the release mechanisms that don't work right. That like with the weight gain, it's that we're not able to release the waste matter properly, so it gets held onto. But in this case, when you're inside it's important to know that the endothelial cells are tiny, and there's 1 trillion of them in your body. So 1% of your body are these endothelial cells. So 100 trillion cells, 1 trillion is inside these blood vessels. And then if you go to the literature and you look up endothelial cell and you say, show me the mitochondria in the endothelial cell, you'll get a picture with like 3 mitochondria. No, that's not right. So I found a wonderful article that got me from the cardiomyocyte, the heart muscle cells, to the endothelium in terms of number of mitochondria. So you've got 10,000 mitochondria in the heart muscle cell, and 1/8 of the concentration in the endothelial cell. So it's around 1,250 mitochondria. Give or take. Let's say it's over 1,000 mitochondria. Well, that's very different than 3,
Sure.
right? So the cartoon shows 3, when in fact it's really busy in there. And what's the mitochondria living on? Oxygen that's being delivered by iron, right? Got to have the messenger bring in the oxygen. And what happens inside the mitochondria is that the oxygen gets transformed into water to release energy, but that iron needs to be recycled. It needs to come out of the mitochondria, and then it needs to come out of the endothelial cell. So it's a two-step release. Well, if that doesn't happen, the iron stays stuck. The iron gets rusty.
Hmm.
The iron creates oxidative stress. And oxidative stress does not come from Mars. It comes from inside malnourished endothelial cells. And when the endothelial cell starts to get funky about this, it's going to recruit cholesterol, because cholesterol it's a repair mechanism, but it's also got a bunch of oxygen in it. People don't realize that. And so what happens when the cholesterol comes into that rusty environment? The cholesterol gets rusty, and that creates what's called foam cells, and then the foam cells begin to change their structure, and then it becomes plaque. But it all started because the body couldn't recycle the iron properly, and I found the doorway that gets jammed, and it's got a bunch of letters A, B, C, B, 8, and I sent you a picture of it, and it's really cool to realize that there are clinicians and scientists who are now understanding where the breakdown is in the endothelial cells that's creating the chronic disease crisis that most people are having, whether that is heart related, whether it's liver related, brain related. These endothelial cells are all over the body. It's not just in the blood vessels. And it's this idea that a single mechanism of breakdown can affect the whole body. And I think that's important for people to realize, is that there is this unique design. And the part that we've talked about before, but I'll bring it back in, is that these cells, these endothelial cells, are supposed to have receptors for our copper protein, ceruloplasmin. So it isn't just that they have the receptor, it's that there's like 470,000 of these things, of these receptors. And so what you've got in that top picture is a healthy endothelial cell, and you can see that the mitochondria within have iron, but it's not overwhelming the system. You go to the bottom picture, and what happens is you see this accumulation of iron that then creates the oxidative stress, which then creates what's called senescent. It's an aged endothelial cell that's going to be recycled. It's going to be taken out. And I don't know what the lifespan is of these cells, but what I do know is that when those black dots start to build, that's a problem. And if you go to that other picture that I sent you, it's got a green mitochondria.
Brain. What's that one?
It was in the same text.
Is that the green one?
Yeah, the green one, exactly.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
Let me send that. I didn't miss that one. Let me send that over to myself.
That's right. Because I think what this one does is it shows you the exact doorway. And I think it's
that would. I mean, just a real quick one before I bring this up.
yeah.
Would that not have a tremendous impact on? I mean, I'm just using one example. There's many, but you think of leaky gut. I mean, talk about endothelial
absolutely.
tissue.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. And again, whenever there's a breakdown in the integrity, there's oxidative stress involved. It's just the oxygen that's not being burned properly is going to create secondary and tertiary effects.
Right.
And so what you've got in this, now we've got green mitochondria. It's got to shift our frame of reference. But in the bottom of the mitochondria, you'll see this NRP1, neurolipin 1, or neuropilin. I think it's neuropilin.
Mm-hmm.
1. Well, it regulates this doorway. Well, if neuropilin gets oxidized because the iron is building up inside the mitochondria, well, then the doorway can't open. And if the door, then it becomes this catch-22. The iron is building, more oxidative stress affecting the neuropilin, and then the neuropilin can't open up the doorway. And it's the point here is not to turn people into physiologists. The important point is to recognize, well, why is the oxidative stress building? Because oxygen can't be burned right. Why can't it be burned right? Because there's not enough copper inside the mitochondria. And the iron then starts to get rusty, and then it starts to really fester. And what we're witnessing is a growing population that has iron accumulation disorders like hemochromatosis. Well, hemochromatosis affects that ABCB8. It affects hepcidin. It affects something called frataxin, Friedreich's ataxia. And so the whole point is know that iron needs to be managed properly by bioavailable copper. That's the most important thing. And that when the body has optimal levels of this copper thingy, everything's fine. And what you're witnessing in your own body is your body is responding to this infusion of the, I would call it the master mineral, that's regulating what's going on. What's the energy status? How are we clearing the exhaust? How are we dealing with the signaling? Are we producing the right color tissue? Is it vibrating at the right frequency? I mean, that takes intelligence. And I think we've been led to believe that our body's stupid and can only work in the presence of a priest. I don't think that's true at all. And so it's just finding the sweet spot of changing the diet, dealing with your stress, making sure that you've got the right kind of food coming in, make sure you've got the right kind of nutrients that are going to support this whole process of regulating copper and iron and oxygen. That is the three-ring circus running the planet. And it's so clear now where the breakdown is, and it's just a process of getting more and more people to realize it. And did I tell you my story about meeting a doctor and a nurse at Starbucks the other day?
You told me the story about the. No, you saw the last story you told me about Starbucks. I think was like the automotive guy. Was that not? Was that the guy?
Okay. All right. So the other day, it's like Saturday, I think, Friday or Saturday. This couple, when I'm at Starbucks, I'm sitting at a handicapped table. It's kind of a joke, so I can spread my papers out. And then this couple sat down next to me, and you probably have seen my artwork of how goofy, and there's red and green marks everywhere, and
Yeah.
highlighting things. Yeah. So this woman is like looking at this, and she gets her partner to move over to the table to the right of me, so she could get a better view of what I was writing. And then she couldn't stand it anymore. She said, what are you working on? I said, well, do you really want to know? She said, yeah, I do. I really do. So I whip out my card, and on the back of my card, it's taken me how many 50-some years to figure out how to reduce my work to one card. So I have my card, right? Name and phone number. But on the back, I have
the book.
The book. here's, whoops,
Here,
let's see. Here's the
I'll
problem.
put you solo so everybody can see it. There you go.
Here's the problem, and here's the solution. And they were just like, they were mesmerized. They were like,
And were these? You said these were doctors?
well, it was a doctor and a nurse, a surgeon.
Okay. Oh, surgeon. Oh, did you push
And I
out?
said,
Did they like? Were they like, I don't want to know about this thing, this copper stuff.
well, so I said, look, I'm a former hospital guy, and I was always curious, why is everyone so sick?
Oh, Jesus.
And I said, now I know why. I said, and with what I know, I can close hospitals. Well, that
Oh, I'm
made
sure
it
he was thrilled with that.
No, that made it, especially the nurse. She said, well, people are still going to need nurses, aren't they?
See,
I said,
they're looking out for
you know what I-
themselves.
So I very politely said, okay, so now you know what I do. And so I went about my business. Well, I couldn't stand it. So I was listening to them, bantering about their work and blah, blah, blah. And so as I was getting ready to leave, I took out a Starbucks napkin. And at the top of it, I wrote PAM enzyme, the master
Of course you did.
signaling enzyme. And I wrote out what it stands for. And then I introduced them to the husband and wife team that studied it for 45 years. And this was a very important encounter. I put it on the table and I said, we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And the doctor, the surgeon, said, well, I can't be expected to remember everything I learned.
Oh, that's such a. Never mind. Keep going.
No, but it's a very important.
I
window
know,
on
but that's like the justification for I can't. I
I
do
know,
what I do.
I know, but this is what is important for the folks out there in listener land. Famous saying by Albert Einstein: anyone can know. The object is to understand.
Correct.
And what he missed in that moment was that what I wanted to do was introduce him to this mechanism that makes sure that all the signaling peptides are working in the body. And he got very defensive. And he said, well, I know there's tons of pre-pro hormones. I said, yeah, but do you know how they get turned on? And he got very flustered. I said, well, this is what turns them on. I said, and it requires copper. I said, and the part that you don't understand is that you don't know where copper is in your diet. And it's just like right over his head. Because I said, and what I do know is that this is not going to help you in the OR, is it? And he goes, no, it's not. And so I think what it revealed to me was, here's the essence of the breakdown, is that ideally, what we want is these practitioners to go, wow, I didn't know that. Tell me about that. What does that mean? What are the implications of that? And I think, just like back to our earlier conversation, everyone is so stressed out. They're just trying to get through the day, and they can't process one more thing. And to me, it was it was very revealing about where the breakdown is in the curiosity in the system. To want to understand the mechanism, not learn something. Oh my God, I've got to learn one more thing. I got to talk. Well, I could tell he was going to get really agitated.
Yeah.
What he was trying to do was get him to understand this is the mechanism that makes it happen, and he couldn't process that, which I thought
They don't
was
want
interesting.
responsibility for it.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, he's also probably making anywhere from $250,000 to $750,000 a year.
Yeah, and he's doing just fine. Thank you very much.
Hey, he has his vacations, he has his car, he has his house.
Right. That's right. And that's why we're here, right?
Was that his wife, or was that like no?
I just think they were good friends.
Okay.
That's how
I hope they don't see this show and that we were.
Well, we didn't identify him by name, did we? And they were very.
They'll
they
know.
were genuine.
They'll know if they were the people in a Starbucks next to a gray-haired guy with a ponytail.
I'm just trying to share where I think the breakdown is, and I'm just inviting people to be more curious. Don't get defensive about it.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting?
Well, I think it is, and I think what it reveals to me is that the solution is really, really simple if people would just act on it.
Of course.
Like what you're doing, what you've done, you took some very proactive action with your supplement routine, with your diet. Then you sought out a new approach to chiropractic, and now you've had this transformational experience. You didn't stop. You kept moving.
Dude,
the
I
edge of
try.
it.
I play with new things every day. You know why? Morley, we don't know everything. Why? Like, why would
No,
I stop? What is the like? Why? What is the? I don't understand the stopping part with people. I don't understand that. I mean,
no, I just I find it fascinating, and what I'm the thing that I learned over the weekend, which I think is really really important, is um, it isn't just that the PAM enzyme runs what's called the alpha amidation pathway. It's a very complicated way of saying activation. The activation pathway isn't just PAM though, and I always thought it was. What I've now learned is, wow, there's three enzymes, and so there's PAM, there's convertase, and then there's it's a I can't even think of the name of it. It ends in E, endolipoprotease E or something like that. But it's like it's very cool. Now I know at a deeper level where the opportunity is. Um, it's just looking on my I was looking on my notes, but I don't have it in my notes. So the thing is, now we know that the activation pathway is a little bit more complicated than we thought it was. That's not a problem. It's just now we have a deeper understanding of where the opportunity is to fix it,
right?
or to stimulate the body to fix itself. Because I firmly believe we have that natural ability.
Sure. Fascinating, sir. Fascinating.
Yeah. So just chipping away at it. Well, I think your case study is an amazing testimony of what's possible.
I'm gonna play with some stuff too. Obviously, I play with my own, but I'm gonna play with others as well and see what I can not manipulate, but I can
Stimulate.
But again, diet has a shift, right? Like you can't be eating crap. I mean, if someone has a high sugar diet, I can throw copper and magnesium and B vitamins at them all day. I don't know that that's gonna like. Sure, you might get a slight improvement because it's the first nutrient that's been in a while, but you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get a radical change. And quite honestly, we need radical changes, Morley, don't we?
Well, I think we do. I think if people have been trying and not getting results, well, then it's time for a shift in the frame of reference.
100%.
And that's really what the RCP is, trying to get people to change their frame of reference.
TheRootCauseProtocol.com, RCP123.org, correct?
Yes, sir. That's
And
it.
Morley's book will be here in a year.
Here in a year, and we've got enrollment for Group 21. It's in active stages, so for those who are inspired by this dialogue that we're having and want to learn more, please sign up. We'd love to have you be a part of that class. First class, I think, is like the second Thursday in February. So we got
Fantastic.
a little bit of time, but we'd love to have people be a part of that process.
Starting 2025 with bang. Nice job, Morley.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Mondays with Morley, everybody. This is Morley Robbins. I'm Dr. Jason Dean. Do your best to love, serve, and help, even though it's kind of crazy out there, and it is what it is. And go get your copper. You can go to Recuperate IQ, or you can go to bravetvcopper.com. You can many different ways to get it, but get some copper in your body and go eat some liver. Just have some liver. It's really good. Really good. Have a great Monday, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Health, freedom, knowledge. This is Brave TV.